So right now, we are about 1 month away from the NFL trade deadline on October 31st. And now with it being about 4 weeks into the NFL season, we have somewhat of an idea of which teams are the competitive teams, which teams are struggling, teams that could potentially be sellers at the deadline to get that future draft capital. And one guy that I do think does make the most sense to be traded at the trade deadline is Davante Adams. If we look last year, there were 10 different trades that went down on trade deadline day. So the odds of something like this happening, not super crazy. A few different guys who were traded last season on trade deadline day: Christian McCaffrey, Roquan Smith, and Robert Quinn. So first off, if we look at Davante Adams' situation, he is now 30 years old. He, of course, gets traded from the Packers to Las Vegas a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. He makes a decision to come play with his college quarterback in Derek Carr. And it seemed to him that at that time, that seemed to be the safer decision because he was unsure about Aaron Rodgers. Would he play for a long time? And then if Rodgers wasn't playing there, Davante didn't know what the quarterback play would be like in Jordan Love. And so he makes the decision to go to Las Vegas, turning down more money from the Packers. The Packers get a first-round pick, second-round pick in return, and Davante becomes, the highest paid receiver, at least at the time. But now he's 30 years old, and he's on a Las Vegas Raiders team led by Jimmy Garoppolo, who missed this past week, that is currently sitting at 1-3. And if you're Davante Adams, you have to be sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, I've proven that I'm one of the best receivers in the league, even without Aaron Rodgers. Because I think there was some question, at least among some NFL fans, is Davante a product of Aaron Rodgers? And I think he proved that last year, putting up somewhere around 1,500 yards with Derek Carr. And now with Jimmy Garoppolo, who missed his past game, but so far in this season, Davante has 33 receptions, 397 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So I don't think anyone right now is questioning, can Davante do it without a guy like Rodgers? We've seen that he, yes, in fact, can. But he's now 30 years old, and he has to be thinking to himself, my time to win a championship, to win that Super Bowl, could be coming to an end sometime soon. Because once you hit 30, you don't know how many years you have left. He could have a few more, good years left in him, and he isn't under contract for a few more seasons as well. But if I'm him, you look at the situation 1-3, he has to be thinking to himself, man, I wish I was on a team that was competing and really had that chance to make a deep playoff run. And if we take a look at one quote from him recently, it's pretty telling. In the past week or so, he said this: "I ain't got time to wait around. It's not my mentality to sit here and try to take all season and figure it out." Now, that doesn't mean he's demanding a trade or telling the organization, get me out of here, please. I don't want to be here anymore. Get me somewhere where I can win some games. But clearly, he's frustrated, and I assume lots of NFL players in that situation would feel a similar way. But considering Davante is in the position he's in, I wouldn't be that shocked if he went to the Raiders and told them, hey, it's been fun, it's been cool, we tried, it hasn't worked out, and, I'm demanding a trade. Please trade me. And if you're the Raiders and you're struggling and you recognize that Davante isn't going to be there for a long, long time, you could instead trade him away, get some draft capital in return, and be set up more so for the future. And then if we look at teams who could be buyers at the trade deadline, there's one team that I think makes the most sense. There's obviously a few others that could make sense, but I think the Baltimore Ravens are a team, if any, that should make a move for Davante Adams. Of course, they made a move for Odell Beckham this offseason, but so far, it hasn't been going great. Odell has already missed 2 games, 50% of the games so far. In his 2 games, he only has 5 receptions for 66 yards. And that was part of what I was wondering when Odell went to the Ravens. I thought to myself, okay, there's a chance this could be a good move, but there's also a chance a guy coming off, some pretty big injuries, who hasn't really played in a while, there's a chance he doesn't really get back to that former level that he was playing at. And so now sort of seeing what's going on there, seeing him already missing time with injuries, I think if you look at their receiver core, it's been fine. Zay Flowers isn't playing great. He's leading the team, 24 receptions, 244 yards. Mark Andrews at tight end has played well, 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. But here's the thing. The Ravens, they're sitting at 3-1. Lamar's played well. He's been super efficient. But I think when you get to playoff time, when you have to face it off against teams like the Dolphins, like the Bills, like the Chiefs, I just don't know if what the Ravens have right now is really enough to take them over the top to beat these teams. I think, yes, they can. What we've seen from them, they've ran the ball very, very well. They're 4th when it comes to rushing yards per game, so they haven't really gone away from that. They haven't really passed the ball that often. Lamar ranks 26th in passing yards per game at 183.8. So they've used Lamar on the ground, in the air. He has 4 touchdown passes through the air, 4 on the ground. He's also been hyper efficient, throwing at 74.3 completion percentage, which is the best in his career. So I'm not saying this team is bad. They're clearly been playing really well, have a great defense, the number 3 scoring defense in the NFL. But I think that when you have a team like this, I think you want to see a team like this make a move over the top. When I think you do have a slight weakness at receiver, when Odell is not really playing at that elite level right now, making a move for Davante Adams would, I think, really make this team one of the best, if not the best, in the AFC. Because if you have Zay Flowers out there already playing really well, you throw out Davante, who can win routes nearly every single play. That is going to make it that much harder for this, for defenses to play against this team. And so far, the Ravens haven't played really any elite offenses. They played some good offenses. When they played Joe Burrow, he's still dealing with that calf injury, and he hasn't really been playing at elite level. And so my question is, if this Ravens team is down 2 scores in the playoffs, and they want to run the ball and they can't because you got to put up points in a hurry, when the defense knows they're going to pass the ball, when the Ravens need to score quickly, can you really rely on the receiver core you have right now? I think they could get it done, but giving them Davante takes them over the top, and I think that's the kind of move that a Super Bowl team, Super Bowl potential team should make. You look at the 49ers last year trading for Christian McCaffrey. Of course, they don't win the Super Bowl, but they're making a move to try to swing for the fences, and I think that if you're the Ravens, that wouldn't be a bad move to make. And looking at these different AFC teams or teams around the NFL, this makes the most sense to me. The one question here is the salary cap, because Davante this year does have a $14.7 million salary cap hit. The Ravens currently have $7.05 million in cap space, and I'm no cap guru. All I know is teams oftentimes can find a way to move money around. They could potentially, I believe, get the Raiders to pay some of that cap hit if they wanted to do a trade. And so if you're the Ravens, why not give the Raiders a second-round pick for a guy who could play really well this season? You could have him under contract next season and, really help solidify this team that's playing really well right now, take him over the top. That's my opinion. Maybe there's some other teams. Feel free to comment those down below. But that's all I have for this video. If you guys want more NFL content like this, feel free to subscribe.